you remove me from this situation, and the words that come out are yours, that that the message that you intend to be heard today is the one that's heard, not mine. And thank you for your son you sent down the cross for our sins. In his name we pray. Amen. Have you ever looked back at a season in your life or a time in your life where God was doing something totally different from what you thought he was doing? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we've all done that. At the beginning of it, when it started, you knew God was moving in it. You thought you understood the purpose. You were pretty sure you knew the direction. But you just knew you understood what God was building. You just knew you understood what the final payoff at the end of this was going to be. And then later you realize that his ways are much higher than yours. Isaiah 55, 8 and 9 tells us, "Nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." Oh shoot, I forgot. "Nor are your ways my ways, declared the Lord, for as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts than your thoughts." There's so many times in our lives that we think we've got it figured out, that we think, yeah, I heard from God, this is what he wants me to do. This is it. This is why. And we just tear off. We got about a third of the information we need, and a third of the information that we're going to have at the end of the day. Let's go to Abraham real quick. There's several examples of this in the Bible. In Hebrews 11, 8 through 10, by faith Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place which he was to receive for an inheritance, and he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he lived as an alien in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise. For he was looking for the city which has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. Abraham was told to go. Well, Abraham went. Now, where are we going? Yeah. Oh, let me back this up. Yeah, well, we'll be there shortly. Yeah. We'll be there shortly. So that was a little train passing humor. Yeah. So Abraham knew, he believed God. He knew God had something for him. He knew God had made him a promise, and he knew God is truth. So he knew he could count on the promise. God said, go. Abraham went. He didn't know what he was looking for. He didn't know where he was going to be. He thought he might know. God's got it. Let's go. Let's move on to Joseph. Now, this is the second of the dreams that I have up here. You remember the first dream was Joseph talking about all of his brothers, basically the 11 boughs of wheat bowing down to his bow, to sheaves, whatever they're called back then, I forget. But that was to indicate his 11 brothers bowing down to him. Well, he came back. You know how kids are. He came back telling his brothers about it. His brothers weren't real pleased. Well, now here's the next dream. Now he had still another dream and related it to his brothers and said, lo, I have had still another dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. He related it to his father and to his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you have had? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come to bow ourselves down before you to the ground? I'm sure that thrilled the brothers too. Now Dad's not happy, but he has a promise from God. He has a vision from God. Now, had God given him all the information and what it was going to take to get there, Joseph might have come back and said, I'm not sure that I care that they all bow down to me. Maybe just one or two of them will like me. God didn't tell him that part of that growth was he was going to be thrown into a pit. He was going to be sold into slavery. He was going to be imprisoned. I didn't tell him that. Pretty sure Joseph might have rethought the deal had he known that going in. But he still knew he had the promise that he could count on, God's promise that somehow, some way, through everything that he was going through, that all of his brothers would bow down to him, that his father and his mother would bow down to him, that he would be a man of respect. He held on to that hope. He held on to that dream, even though he didn't know what all was going on. He didn't know how he was going to get there. He didn't know how he was going to go from that pit to his brothers. Okay, my brothers just threw me in a pit. How are they eventually going to bow down to me? My brothers just sold me into slavery. How are they going to bow down to me? I'm a slave. He's in prison. How are my brothers going to bow down to me? God made a way. God used that time to shape Joseph, to grow Joseph, to turn him into the man that would eventually, at the end of the day, be bowed down to by his brothers. There's so many times that we do things and we go into things where we think we know what the final outcome is. We think we know what we're there for. Very seldom are we right. Very seldomly is that all there is to it. As most of y'all know, Lori spends a lot of time up at Bluebonnet Haven, and I go up there with her when I can, which hopefully will be more often now, as you'll hear about here in just a minute. We think we're going up there to help those girls. That's why we're going up there. But the growth that happens inside of us is far greater than anything we've done for them. These girls just want to be loved. They just want people there for them. They don't remember what you said. What they remember was that you were there. So that gives you the opportunity to go up there and to talk to these girls and to open up to these girls and to listen to their problems and work through them. And if you say something wrong, they're teenagers. They're not going to remember it anyway. The growth that I've seen in Lori, which she's not here this morning, so I can talk to her. Y'all pray for her. She's sick. So I can talk about her. But the growth that I've seen, I can talk about her whether she's here or not, but yeah, she's probably, hi Lori, she's watching. She said she was watching, so yes, I'm talking about you. The growth I've seen in her since she has started going there. The pouring out of love that she has, that was always in her, but she didn't know how to get it out. She didn't know how to get it poured out, and those girls have cracked that open. Like I said, we go up there with the intent of helping these girls when it's really us that walk out of there with the greater blessing. Because like I said, these are teenage girls. There might be one or two that remember us 5 years from now. But I promise you I'll remember those girls until the day I die. Now, for the teaser slide that everyone had. Most of you that have been here for a while heard me get up here and announce, 18 months ago, right after Trace Diaz, that God provided me another job. He sent me somewhere that was going to give me more time, that I was going to be able to make an impact. I was still going to be able to volunteer more here because I was going to be working from home and this and that and everything else. I was wrong. I thought it was about helping others. I thought it was about changing outcomes. I thought it was about fixing problems. Looking back now, I can see that God spent the last 18 months shaping me. He taught me discernment. He refined my discernment. He taught me restraint, endurance. He taught me how to guard my heart. And he taught me that not every fight has to be fought. And he also taught me the meaning of the verse that tells us, do not cast your pearls after swine. Because some people don't want to grow. Some people don't want to get better. They're so invested in themselves being right that they don't, if they listen to anyone else, if they acknowledge what anyone else is trying to tell them, that's tantamount to them admitting that they were wrong. And that's at work, but don't we do that in our spiritual lives too? We do that a lot. I know I have. And I know other people that have planted both feet, and so you're going to have to hit me with a bulldozer before you move me. But you know what the other thing it taught me was? It taught me not to carry the burdens that were never mine to carry. There are burdens that are mine that I carry with the help of God. It's not my job, and it wasn't my job there, to make him listen, to make that owner listen. My job there was to pass along the information, to tell him the right way to do something, to show him the right way of doing something, show him it worked. He can do what he wants to with the information. When I get up here, it's not my job to change anybody. It's my job to pass along the information. It's my job to faithfully pass along what God has given me during my preparation over the course of the week as a seed. And then I step back, let God water it, and let God grow it. The growth happens between you, and God. I'm the messenger. Jim's the messenger. Keith, on Labor Day weekend, will be the messenger. Y'all don't know that, but it's coming. Maybe not Labor Day weekend. No, we were talking about Fifth Sunday. But over the last 18 months, the reason I was there and what God was doing was nothing like what I thought it was going into it. His ways are higher than ours. His vision is much larger than ours, and he thinks of things that we can't even imagine. Let's look at a couple of more instances from the Bible of people not understanding, not having all the information. Look at Peter rebuking Jesus about going to the cross. He said, "This shall never happen to you." Peter expected conquest, not sacrifice. At the triumphant entry, the crowd was expecting a conquering king riding in on a big white horse. What did they get? They got Jesus riding in on a donkey. That wasn't what their expectation was going in, because that's not what they had pictures. Peter told Jesus, "Never shall you wash my feet," as Jesus was washing feet. When Lazarus died, everyone expected Jesus to go rushing back. What did he do? He waited 4 days. And then when he came back, he wept with them. And then he raised him. His ways are higher than ours. In Gethsemane, Peter reaches for a sword. Jesus reaches for an ear that had been cut off, heals it, and then surrenders. The disciples kept expecting Jesus to do one thing a certain way. And Jesus kept showing them an entirely different kingdom, an entirely different way of doing things. And all that misunderstanding brings us to Emmaus. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing. We all pretty well know the story of Emmaus. The two disciples walking along the road. Jesus comes and walks with them. They didn't recognize him. They were telling him, or he asked them, what's wrong? And they told him, well, you must be the only person in all of Jerusalem that doesn't know. And then they told him, and Jesus called them fools, and then showed them where they were wrong. Walked them through the entire Old Testament. Showed him where the Old Testament was all pointing to exactly what happened. And then it was getting late, so they invited him back to the house to break bread, to stay there. When they broke bread, that's when they recognized him. Now, why didn't Jesus reveal himself right straight off? The Bible doesn't tell us. Doesn't tell us why they couldn't recognize him, whether it was Jesus intentionally blocking his vision, or whether it was because of their grief, similar to Mary's grief. She didn't recognize Jesus. She thought he was the gardener. It doesn't tell us clearly what's why. But I would suspect, at least I know, when I've been gone for a couple of days and I come walking into the yard, there's two Australian shepherds there that are climbing up one side of me and down the other. Had Jesus walked up as Jesus right straight off the bat, they would not have heard a thing he said for 10 minutes after that. Let's look at verse 21. But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Indeed. Besides all this, it is the third day since these things happened. We were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Their thinking was too small. Their thinking wasn't even capable of comprehending what Jesus was actually there to do. They were expecting that conquering king. They wanted to be freed from Rome. They wanted someone to come in and get Rome out from above them. They wanted to be free. They were thinking small, while Jesus was there to redeem the world and everyone in it. Let's go to 15 and 16. already kind of touched on this. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself approached and began traveling with them. But their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. Like I said, we don't know why. We don't know whether it was Jesus or whether it was grief or whether it was a combination of all of the above. Ultimately, if it mattered, the Bible would have told us. But it doesn't. Fact is, they were still genuine. They were still talking to him. But they were hopeless. They thought there was a period of their lives that was wasted. And sometimes the only way that we see that those periods of our lives that we go through when we've been being shaped are not wasted is to reflect back on them. This period I just came out of, I could have just went, well, there's 18 months I'll never get back. That was wasted time. I could have been doing something else. But no, you look back at it, you take a look at it, you be honest about it. Find the places where you see Jesus and God was growing you, was shaping you. But what did Jesus do? He didn't abandon them. He walked with them through it. Oops. He walked with them. He taught them. Let's go to 25 and 26. And he said to them, O foolish men and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary for the Christ to suffer these things and to enter into his glory? He walked with them. He taught them. He showed them where they were wrong. He didn't rebuke them and cast them off because they were wrong. We're going to be wrong. God knows we're going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong most of the time. We don't see the big picture. We don't see 10 years down the road. Look what he did in 27. Then beginning with Moses and with all the prophets, he explained to them the things concerning himself in the scriptures. That's the teaching. He walked them through the entire Old Testament. Luke 24:30 and 32, when he had reclined at the table with them, he took the bread and blessed it, and breaking it, he began giving it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said one to the other, were not our hearts burning within us while he was speaking to us on the road, while he was explaining the scriptures to us? Many times in our lives, we know something long before we admit it. There's that gut feeling, my gut's telling me. Their hearts were burning inside them while they were talking. They were realizing we were wrong. We looked at this the wrong way. We get into situations, we get into times, and our gut and our heart is telling us, I should not be here. But our eyes aren't open till much later. Our eyes aren't opened until we break bread with Jesus, until we bring it to Jesus, till we bring it to God, until we get that close personal relationship. We bring these problems and start asking, what now? Am I seeing this right? God, show me something. Help me through this. But when their eyes were open, that was that moment of close relationship. When they were sitting there breaking bread with Jesus. It wasn't during the teaching. It wasn't during the rebuke. It wasn't during the traveling. All that stuff's good. But that doesn't get you there. It's that close personal relationship where things go to the next level. All the teaching in the world, there are secular scholars right now that can tell you the Bible back and forth, upside down, backwards and forwards, and what it means. But you know what? They don't believe it. They just know it. Satan knows the Bible backwards and forwards, upside down. There is no relationship. Knowledge means nothing without relationship. Knowledge is not going to get you there without relationship. It's those intimate moments when you're sitting there quiet by yourself. You talk to God. Let God talk to you. In the middle of the storm, put down the burden that you're not supposed to be carrying and go, God, pick this up. Help me with this. I can't do this. It's the relationship. And it's the reflection back and the understanding on those times where God was shaping us. Let me catch up on my notes. I got on a roll. You know, like I just said, the recognition comes in fellowship and presence. Christ had been walking beside them the entire time. Their eyes were opened in that moment of presence, and they saw where their thinking was too small. They saw where they didn't recognize and realize how great God is. And I pray that maybe someday some of us will look back and realize God was doing far more than what we expected in our lives. The road was harder than we had planned on. It was harder than we expected. The process was nothing like what we had imagined. And shaping hurt more than we wanted it to. But at the end of the day, His ways were higher all along. Now we're going to go into a moment of communion. Dirks is back there at the back. I actually have one today. Mark that day down on the calendar. I think it's the first time this year I've come up here to preach and actually had one. You need, anybody else need one? Keith, you got one? Okay. All right, thank you, Dirks. Now that we've got that, I tell you what, Brian, put us a short song on, just a couple minutes. If anybody has something that they've been carrying that's not theirs, if anybody is going through a season that they don't understand, going through a time that it's not what you had pictured, it's not what I had planned, this isn't the way it's supposed to be, I'm going to open the altar up just for a couple minutes. If you want to